Hi everyone, this is Lomi, and today I'll be walking you through how to sew a little pirate winch style dress for Littlefee and similar USD dolls. It's a simple dress and can be put together pretty quick. You can find the pattern on my website, linked in the description. In addition to the pieces in the pattern, you'll need some narrow elastic. I'll be using flat 1/4 inch wide elastic for the sleeves, but this round elastic for the neckline. Construction is really simple. Pin the underarm curve of the sleeve to the matching curve on one body piece, and the other side of the sleeve gets pinned to the other body piece. We'll be sewing this into kind of a long strip of pieces, alternating one body, one sleeve, one body, one sleeve. Sew around the curve to join the pieces, then finish the edge of each seam with a zigzag stitch. After the seams are finished, we'll also zigzag the end of both sleeves. And then we'll run a zigzag stitch along the whole top edge of the garment. Clip your threads and then fold down the top edge. You want this to be a little more than 1/4 inch wide, so that you have room to run the elastic through the top. After it's all pinned and uniform, sew it down to create a casing for the elastic. This part is really hard to do in small scale, especially since it's hard to get narrow elastic. You can get a more polished look with bigger dolls, but we'll do the best we can here. The end result will look something like this. Now we need to pull the elastic through the top. You can use a safety pin for this if you have one small enough. I'll be using a bobby pin, because it's more narrow, and the bent tips are flexible, so they can fit through really tight spaces. I tie the elastic into the loop end of the pin, then feed it through the top of the dress. Make sure you hold onto the tail of the elastic so it doesn't pull through. I got caught on a thread, so I'll clip that, and then untie the elastic from the pin. Gather the fabric until the neckline is about 6 inches wide. It doesn't need to be exact since it is elastic. Then pin the open curve of the sleeve and body together to close the top. Make sure your elastic is where you need it before you sew. Then close the seam. Make sure you backstitch over the elastic a few times to be sure it's really secure. I add a second line of stitches and backstitch again on the seam allowance, making sure it's held well. Then finish the edge with a zigzag stitch. Now we'll do the sleeves. Start by folding the end in about 1/4 inch and add some flat elastic. I use a piece that's just a little more than half the width of the sleeve. Stitch it down on the edge and then stretch it all the way out, sewing it in place with a zigzag stitch to maximize stretch. It's important to hold on to the back and pull the fabric through as you sew, because the elastic will pull it toward you, and that can result in a big jam. Finish the end of both sleeves this way. Now we'll close one side of the dress. Just one. Pin it from sleeve cuff to the bottom edge of the dress. We'll sew this closed in one line, backstitching at both ends of the seam, and then finish with a zigzag stitch. Before we close the other side, we need to add the ruffle. First things first, sew your 2 ruffle pieces together at one end to make a 2-foot long strip, finishing with a zigzag stitch. You can just cut it as one long strip to begin with if you want, but I drew it as 2 pieces on the pattern so it can be used with smaller cuts of fabric. It works really well with fat quarters. Next, finish the edge by folding it in, then folding again to create a narrow rolled hem. If you have a rolled hem foot for your machine, this is a great time to use it. Sew the hem down, making sure you have the seam on the top of the hem. I actually missed the edge in one spot, so I'll have to fix that by hand later. Now we'll ruffle the other edge. If you're like me and enjoy cheating, you'll love this. Set your machine's stitch length to 4 mm or longer. Then reach up and grab hold of the top thread. Squeeze it so the machine has to pull the thread through your grip. Then start sewing along the top edge of your fabric strip and watch the way it ruffles up on its own. Evenly spaced and super easy. Pin the finished ruffle to your dress with right sides together. You can line up the joining seam with the side seam on the dress to make sure you have the same amount of ruffling on either side. If your ruffle is still a little wider than the dress, you can grab the top thread and pull to make the ruffles a little tighter. Pin it all together, then sew on the ruffle. Once it's sewn, finish the edge with a zigzag stitch. Clip your threads, then close the open side of the dress. Just like before, pin from the cuff of the sleeve, down the side of the dress, all the way to the hem. Sew the sides closed, backstitching at both the cuff and the hem. Then finish with your zigzag stitch. Turn your dress right side out and... oh, come on now. There we go. There, now we're done. The dress can be worn just like this beneath other layers, which I'll be doing, or you can add a ribbon around the waist for a cute and simple outfit. And that's all for today. Next week I'll be sharing how to make an overdress to wear with this, so make sure you're subscribed so you won't miss it. See you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.